What if you could know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, who your soulmate was? Would you want to? How would that affect your other relationships? What if a soulmate wasn't just someone romantic? What if a soulmate could be a family member? What if it could be a platonic friend? Again, how would that affect your relationships? How would it affect the way you see the world? What if you didn't like your soulmate? What if you never met your soulmate? These are the questions that are the foundation of my debut novel, as yet unpublished, A Study in Soulmates. As I've mentioned, this book was born out of, I don't know if I actually mentioned this here. This book was born out of my rather embarrassing habit of looking for my soulmate everywhere I went. Specifically, when I was living in England. I did a study abroad in my undergrad for 6 months, and I was dead convinced I was gonna find the love of my life while I was over there. Not just because I love a good English or Scottish or there's like 400 English accents actually. Anyways, I felt it in my bones. I love British literature so much, and I just wanted to stay in England forever. And what easier the way than finding someone who can get you a green card marriage and a love marriage at that, right? The love of my life is clearly over there. Yeah. So while I was living there, every man that passed me over 6 feet tall, because I'm rather tall myself, who wasn't wearing a wedding ring, I would literally watch them pass. They didn't have to look at me. And I would say, "Are you my soulmate?" Not out loud. I wasn't that crazy. But in my head, I would sit there and be like, "Are you my soulmate? Are you my soulmate? Are you? Sir? Sir? Sir?" Yeah, not a single man, I think, spoke to me the entire time I was there. There was even one guy, I went to church just in case he might have been there. And there was this one guy who was really cute. And I like worked my confidence up to speak to him after mass one day. And the day I'd finally like worked up my confidence to do so, I was walking towards him and like someone walked in front of him and he disappeared. Like he booked it out of that church. And I felt like Jesus was laughing at me. Religion is actually a good segue into how soulmates work in my novel because whenever I'm exploring a somewhat fantastical topic or an idea or a what if, I like to explore it as close to our own reality as possible. So in my book, Soulmates, and yes, they can be romantic, platonic, or even family members, are determined and reveal themselves when you touch left hands for the first time, you and your soulmate, the first time you touch left hands, a unique mark appears around your third left finger that signifies that you're soulmates. And each pair has a unique marker, as unique as a fingerprint, to say, yes, these two are soulmates. And I picked that finger in particular and that concept because it fits right into our actual traditions of wearing wedding rings, chastity rings. Are you hiding a mark? Are you protecting a mark? You know, are married couples hiding the fact that they are soulmates or that they aren't soulmates? Did people back in the 1800s wear chastity rings to hide the fact that they were soulmates with their sister so that they still looked marriageable? I really liked exploring a lot of big concepts like that with the context of little touch of soulmate magical realism. I've mentioned before, but my book is categorized as a contemporary, takes place in modern day Boston, new adult, so the target audience is women in their early to mid 20s. Well, not necessarily women, but people in their early to mid 20s. Although I will say women compose the majority of readers in today's world, it seems, and especially young women compose the main market for new adult novels, especially ones with elements of romance, which my book includes, and elements of humor and magical realism. So it's a fun book. I like to think it's a kind of TikTok-esque romance book, but I turn a lot of things on their head. So the story follows Tess, a 23-year-old bisexual minor disaster who doesn't have a soulmate. She has no soulmate mark, and she has been obsessed with finding her soulmate her whole life. She has a twin sister, and usually twins are soulmates, but her twin sister is actually soulmates with their younger brother. And so Tess has always just been surrounded by this idea of who's my soulmate if they're soulmates. Tess's obsession with soulmates has led her into more than a few disasters and traumatic episodes, causing issues for both herself and people around her and her loved ones and relationships. So she finally says, that's it. I gotta walk away. I gotta just pretend soulmates don't exist. But of course, this realization happens right as she is the new star of a soulmate reality show. Well, it's a conversational documentary, is how they advertise it to her. And they promise to find her soulmate for her. So Tess is trying to convince herself not to be obsessed with soulmates, whilst being presented 3 people who have been promised one of them is her soulmate. And meanwhile, she has decided to try and balance these feelings out by interviewing many people who are separated from their soulmates, whether by fate or choice. People whose soulmate has died, for example. People whose soulmate, they touched hands on a public subway and then never saw each other again. She is just fascinated and obsessed and trying to get out of her own way as she navigates this mess and these messy relationships and trying to decide if her soulmate is who she thinks it is and if she really wants that person. I know this video is going to get a few views because I have been very secretive about my writing. Like any good writer, I am very shy, aggressively shy about my writing, especially when it's been unpolished and especially with my own family. So my family members, I've told them, I'm not telling you anything about my book until it is actually published. So this is their first time hearing about the plot, really anything. I might have told them the title once, maybe, but welcome family and others. So for this video, I asked my mom to pull together questions that she's been wondering about my book, and I thought I could answer those to tell you more about my yet to be published debut novel. So she wanted to know what inspired me to write this book. As I said, it was inspired by my own obsession with looking for someone to spend my life with. I've especially always been obsessed with the idea of a life partner, like the person you make your life decisions with. And I don't even think life partners have to be lifelong. I mean, even just like a roommate where you guys get along really well in college and right out of college, like in your 20s, you make decisions together. Are we gonna move to this apartment? Are we gonna do this? Oh, you're gonna marry this guy. I don't know if that's the right choice for you. You make choices, you talk about your lives together, you share your lives. I've always been obsessed with sharing my life with someone. I grew up a very only child and in a small town where I was always a bit of an outcast. And even now, just this week, I was at book club and we'd read my book that I wanted to read. It was Shakespeare Was a Woman and Other Heresies, and everyone said it was too academic and it was boring. And to me, it read like a sports page. And I was like, oh God, I'm a nerd amongst the nerds. Like, I'm nerdier than the nerds. So yeah, I always feel a bit on the outside of things. What was my writing process like? So I wrote a lot of it. I was still an undergrad when I was writing it, and I ended up being able to get credit for it, for completing it as a creative writing project, which was less for the credit and more for just encouraging me to finish it. And I did, and I'm really glad, like the first draft. So it could be like pulling teeth some days to get a chapter out. I'm a very big plotter. In the writing community, we talk about a plotter or a pantser. I don't know where the term pantser comes from. Maybe it's like you're getting pants? I don't know. But the plotters plan everything out really thoroughly, and the pantsers just go in with an idea and just start writing. And I'm much more on the plotting side, but I loved the moments when my characters would surprise me. I would be sitting there writing, I'd be like, okay, this is gonna happen next. And then I'd be like, but this isn't really gonna work. Why isn't it gonna work? Oh, that's because she's gonna do this instead. Oh my God, girl, I didn't know you were gonna do that. I'm a plotter, but I'm also let me see where my characters take me. They really do take on a life of their own. It's wild. Okay, full confession, the rest of my mom's questions, she is in love. My mom's soulmate these days is ChatGPT, specifically the one named Claude. And so the rest of these questions, like, what genre does your book fall into? Who is your target audience? I already answered. And are there recurring themes or messages in the book that are especially important to you? I know my mother would never come up with that herself, but whatever. I've mentioned previously there are themes of hope. There are themes of fate, big themes of fate. Fate versus free will, fate versus choice, or how our choices affect our fates. A big question of, my favorite thing throughout the novel is the question of, does everyone have a soulmate? Because in the book, only about 30% of people on the planet have soulmate marks. And so is that a sign that about 30% of people have soulmates? Is it a sign that about 30% of people, by coincidence, meet their soulmate? Is it a sign that only 30% of people, maybe other people have soulmates, but they exist in different lifetimes? It's these are questions that try to go unanswered. This is why the book is called A Study in Soulmates, because I am as much asking the questions as I am trying to answer them. Again, in my own book, in this universe that I created, but I'm okay with living in uncertainty. I like uncertainty. So I do leave some of the questions up to you. I'd say I leave a lot up to the reader, up to their interpretation of soulmates, up to their experiences with soulmates. And that's, again, the whole basis of the novel is, how do our beliefs in soulmates or disbelief in soulmates affect the way we move through the world? And so hopefully I've set up the book in its current state. Again, I'm looking for an editor to bring it to its fullest potential, but in its current state, gosh, I'm feeling really proud of this as I'm saying this. I didn't do this on purpose, but this is really what it is. A lot of things are left open, at least for a while, so that you are allowed to determine your answers to these big questions, to determine whether or not you want to find your soulmate, to determine whether or not you think everyone has a soulmate. Gosh, I did a great job, guys. I'm just realizing this. If any of this sounds fascinating, if you're interested in my novel, if you're even just a nice person who wants to support a aspiring author, please like, subscribe, share, save, do all the things all the people always ask you to do on YouTube, so that maybe I can go viral and have one of those viral books or concepts of a book that some cute agent picks up. Maybe he'll be like I'm definitely not all of a sudden imagining my future agent as a soulmate, although I feel like a good agent should feel like a soulmate. Or if you're an agent out there, cute or not, and this sounds interesting, give me a call.